Loads of great channels, including 7 from Sky. Record and catch up TV, anytime calls, and totally unlimited broadband. Join now at talktalk.co.uk. See website for comparison details. 18-month contract and conditions apply. Excludes mobiles and non-geographic numbers.
Larry Lamb on LBC.
What should the government do to curb the dangers of violent video games and online media? Some people think they should do nothing. I think they should do a great deal. It's all getting a bit out of hand as far as I'm concerned. Too many violent games. It's no good. Give us a call, 0345 6060 973 or text 84850. Or you can tweet at LBC, or you can email Larry at lbc.co.uk. Let's speak to Barry in Hampstead. Hello, Barry.
Larry, you really disappointed me this afternoon.
Well, there you go. That's it.
You're asking what the government can do. Let me tell you something. The government should do absolutely nothing. You know why?
Yeah.
It's up to parents to control what their children are exposed to.
Okay.
I've got a 15-year-old,
Yeah.
11-year-old and an 8-year-old. We have no television at home.
Yeah.
They watch the BBC iPlayer. They've never watched one inappropriate movie. They've never played one age-inappropriate game.
Yeah.
You want the government to come around and tell you what time they should go to bed?
No, not at all. Not at all. That's not my point. It's not my point.
The government should do nothing. It's up to parents to protect their children. You wouldn't let your children play with knives. Why let them play with something that can dangerously affect their mind?
I couldn't agree more. I couldn't agree more. I wouldn't. But what I'm talking about is people who have less control over their lives and less control over their kids. How about them? Don't they deserve somebody working on their behalf?
How have people got less control over their kids? Parents got absolute control over their kids.
In theory, they do. But there are kids around who are being raised by parents who do not exercise the right amount of control. I'm not interested in the parents. I'm interested in the kids.
Control is it?
No, I'm interested in the kids. What about the kids? What about people looking after the kids? I didn't have people looking after me when I was a kid because my parents were going through a meltdown, right? And I was being left to fend for myself. And I'm quite sure this is going on with a lot of kids. What I'm talking about is trying to do something for the kids.
No, it's a passive situation where parents...
It isn't a passive situation, Barry, when you've got kids who are not being looked after properly. And they're getting on and getting involved with stuff like this, which is dangerous. And far more intelligent people than me are saying exactly the same thing.
Nonsensical censorship.
No, it's not nonsensical.
Parents need to do some parenting. It's that simple.
Exactly. Well, then what you should do is you should go down around and give parenting exercises, and I'll get on and look after the kids whose parents don't get them. Thanks for your call there. Ted's in Twickenham. Hello, Ted.
Yeah, hiya. I've just been listening to a lot of this stuff this morning. I actually make sort of videos about games. I work with games a lot, and I've played games an awfully long time. I'm 38 now. I've got 2 young kids of my own. I've played games since I was about their age.
Yeah.
A lot of the stuff you're saying about age restrictions and stuff, I mean, there are age restrictions. There are lots of games. There are 18-plus games, 15-plus games. You have to be of a certain age. Now, obviously, like as you said, kids are going to get their hands on these games from time to time, and some kids that are troubled kids, mentally ill kids, like the kid that killed his teacher, the game is not what made that kid do what he did. If it was that simple, it would be a far easier situation when it comes to mental health.
What did
But
then?
that kid,
What did then? Was he inherently evil?
evil is a very, very difficult word to use when you're talking about people.
Exactly.
But you're describing the influence of games as being so great that the reason he killed his teacher is because he played video games. Now, you're also saying, well, he spent a lot of time playing games. I spend a lot of time playing games. A lot of people spend a lot of time playing games. But there have been, and I urge you to look at them, a lot of studies into the effects that violent games have on people, and none of those studies have concluded, oh, it's absolutely the fault of games.
Well, what studies are you reading that I'm not reading? What are the studies, what are the things that I'm reading that are so different from you when actually people are saying it's exactly
Well, but when you say people, you said MPs. Now, since when did we take
not
our
just
cues
sitting
from
around
MPs?
I beg your pardon?
I said, when did we take our cues about what's right and wrong from MPs? Do you think that they're motivated to do good, or because some people complain, it gets into the newspaper, and then they say, this is something we can deal with? The British games industry is a huge employer in this country. We're very, very, very good at making games. That's one of the things that we do really, really well. There are lots of games industries in Britain that we should be proud of, and a lot of those games, yes, they do have violence in them. Now, to say that that is this huge negative influence and it's making people kill each other, I mean, it's just crazy. There's no causality there at all. It doesn't make sense.
Well, speaking to my first caller who's defending the whole thing of video games, somebody who started in his early teens and now in his mid-20s, did in actual fact feel that there was a chance that there was some connection between what happened with that boy killing his teacher and playing video games. Now that's somebody who's a player, right?
That's true, but that's his opinion, and B, whilst I agreed with some of the stuff he said, I mean, for instance, he brought up the point of alcohol. If you want to talk about crime in this country, and you go to A&E, almost all the cases in there are resulted to alcohol in some way, especially at the weekend. Are we going to ban alcohol? Would you like the government to tell you how much alcohol you can drink a week? Would we like to be told what we can and can't do by the government? Or would we like to take some responsibility? Bad things happen. You can't always just point to something and say, well, it's clearly these video games. In the 80s, it was horror movies. Nobody's talking about that anymore. Why not? It's just flavour of the month. Whatever people can blame, they will blame.
But you think it's flavour of the month?
Absolutely. I mean,
Yes,
this comes around all the time.
Last night I had a long conversation with a headmaster of a school, okay? And when I said to him I was going to talk about this on the radio this morning because I'm rather concerned with it, he said, well, thank heavens for that, because as far as I'm concerned, this is absolutely a very dangerous situation, okay? This is just another person that's actually involved in educating young people, that sees in his day-to-day work that these games do have an effect on people. And I understand fully that there are a lot of games which do no harm at all and they are entertainment. I'm very specifically talking about games which are based on violence, and they are based on being, they work because they draw the individual into it, and these kids that are playing them are often confused and they don't have a moral base. And this twisted morality that are involved in the games where the baddies are goodies and the goodies are baddies, they don't get it, it gets into them. I know you're not intending to do that, but it's part and parcel of things that people sell that don't do what they're supposed to do. And that's what I'm worried about.
Where do you think they should get their morality from? Where do you think the kids should get their morality from? Do you think they should get it from their parents and their peers and their family?
Absolutely.
Because that's where people get it from.
Absolutely.
So when, for instance, you were talking about those kids, the caller, I think it was in Scotland, where you said that they went to a psychologist, and the psychologist said, we're seeing this more and more. Now, I don't agree with putting kids to bed with game consoles and tablets and things like that, letting them go up in their room and just play. If you're letting your child do anything without awareness of what they're doing, how it's affecting them, keeping an eye on their mental state, that's not the government's fault. People should take responsibility for themselves and say, I'm being a bad parent.
This is exactly my point. If you heard what I said at the beginning of this, my problem at school was that nobody was paying attention to me whatsoever. Now, I didn't live at a time when there were things like video games that I could watch. I'm sure at the time, had I had access to them, I would have, right? But I was being tortured to death by somebody at school, a nasty teacher, because nobody was fighting my corner at all. I'm not interested in the parents being bad parents. I'm interested in the kids who are suffering from bad parenting. And so as far as I'm concerned, if there are not controls put on which stop kids who are vulnerable anyway from watching this stuff, we're going to have a lot more of these boys turning into evil monsters.
Right, but games have been around for a long time.
I know they have, and so has bad parenting. And I'm looking after the kids.
But so have bad people. Everybody, like, just saying I want to look after bad kids, that's great. Everybody wants to look after bad kids, so we automatically agree with your point. But the way we look after bad kids is not to say, let's ban stuff that makes bad people do bad things.
I didn't say ban it, I said control it.
No. Putting an age restriction on it, they've done that. What more should they do?
That's why an inquiry is needed, so that something can be done about it, or at least you can put parents' minds at ease to feel that, you know, something is being done about it.
Done. This is the thing. You keep saying something needs to be done. A 14-year-old kid can't walk in and buy an 18-plus game. Not if someone does that for him. You've got the same problem that they're restricted. How do you make a device that only works for someone of a suitable age? How? It's impossible. We don't know a way. If there was some kind of DNA thumbprint and you can go up and if your fingerprint's not old enough, you don't get to play the game, well, great. But now we're talking about you've got to have a control to the settle point, and there is. And holding up a good game, you shouldn't be playing the game. Most of these things, if you buy them online, you need a credit card or account like that. You don't have those when you're a 13-year-old kid. Someone needs to buy it for you. If you go into the shop, someone needs to buy it for you. You shouldn't be playing games and there's restriction on it. And okay, you'll get to play the games. Who is in control of that? Well, the parents or their peers. Now, if those peers don't have anyone looking after them, if you think the worst thing happening in their life is playing a violent video game, you're out of control. There are far more important things to deal with than whether these kids play computers, which shouldn't affect them anyway, by the way.
Right. Thank you for your call. Here we go.
Unless you are ready to put what's it called, megabytes, you know, I don't know how to do it. You can do that, then you can download your WhatsApp.